Welcome, everybody. I am Carrie Lennox. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at Breck School. Thank you for joining me tonight to talk about financial aid. All right, so here we are, our intro, counting the cost and introduction to financial aid for private and independent schools for families. Again, my name is Carrie Lennox. I'm Associate Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at Breck. Scott Wade, maybe some of you have met him. He is our director. He is not joining us tonight, but he certainly is also someone who can talk to you about financial aid should you have any questions. Okay, so let's see. Next. All right, so really, we're talking about your child's education. We're talking about financial aid. So we're talking about who is responsible for your child's education. And really, that's you, that's the parent. Parents are responsible for the child's education, and financial aid is a way to help fund that education. What is financial aid? Why should I apply? Financial aid is a grant. Okay, so this is important to understand. Financial aid is not a loan. It's nothing that you have to pay back. It's a grant that comes from the school. And I'll talk, of course, specifically about Breck and our policies, but generally speaking, financial aid at schools is a grant that is coming directly from the school. It's coming from the school's budget. The school is, and certainly we aren't getting any money from any other type of funding, which would be helping us give grants, but it comes directly from our budget. Every school has a very specific budget for financial aid. And I'm sorry, I have to move my Q&A around so I can see my whole slide. Again, as I said, this is something that does not have to be repaid by families. The reason that you would apply for financial aid is because school tuition is expensive. It's not something that we hide from. Independent schools, there's a cost, it's expensive. Right here this is just really a screenshot from our website. Maybe you have seen it. This is what tuition is this year. And sorry, let me move. Maybe that's only the one can see that. But in any case, this is our tuition this year. So we've got preschool half days, preschool full days, kindergarten full days, and then we've got our kind of main divisional. So lower school is grades 1 through 4, middle school grades 5 through 8, upper school has kind of two different grades 9 through 11, and then 12th grade. So this is tuition, and we are similar to other independent schools in the state. And so, yes, you would be applying because it's expensive. Sorry, now I need to move this again. How do you start? Well, attending this webinar is one way that you start. Some of you maybe have already talked to me or talked to Scott or read information on our website. But certainly, this is a great place to start to learn about financial aid. The financial aid season has already opened, and so financial aid applications are already opened. SSS, which is the company that we use, Schools and Student Services, they opened their applications in September of this year. And so the big thing that we'll be talking about today, or one of the things we'll be talking about today, is that you don't want to wait for admissions. Sometimes people think, well, I'll apply to the school, see if my child gets in, and if they get in, then I'll think about financial aid. Please don't do that. The reason you should not do that is because both of these applications they're parallel to each other. So they're happening at the same time. So if you think that you might need financial aid, you need to apply for financial aid at the same time that you're applying for admission. If you wait for admissions decision, that money will be gone because we allocate money at the same time, or really around the same time that we are making the decisions. We make admissions decisions in February, we make financial aid decisions in March, and we mail out all decisions at the same time, decisions for admissions and for financial aid. So if you wait, you will lose out because the money will already be gone. It's important as you're starting this process to know deadlines. Some of you may be applying to multiple schools, and we do not all have the same deadlines. So it's important to keep track of the various deadlines of the schools that you're applying to. Most independent schools, our deadlines for admissions are between January and March, and that is also true of financial aid. So ours, which is going to come up in here later, our deadline is February 15th for financial aid. It's February 1st for admission, so all of your admission materials needs to be done by February 1st, and then financial aid application materials need to be submitted by February 15th. Do your taxes early. Now, this is, I probably should change this. We did make a little change to taxes, which I will kind of explain as we go forward. But schools are going to require, just like we do, are going to require to see your current taxes. We ask for 2021, we'll be asking for, yes, 2021 taxes and 2022 taxes, okay? So, and I will talk more about that later, but when you submit them, how soon you have to get things done, that is gonna come, but just know that not all schools are gonna be the same, so make sure that you know when taxes are due for each school. The other thing is to make a budget. Remember, your child's education costs are your responsibility. And so it's really important for you to make a budget. It is no fun to make a budget. I don't like making a budget, but it is important. You need to know what your bottom line is, okay? You need to know what you can afford. So, you know, looking at what is the money that's coming in, where are all the places that it has to go, and kind of what do we have? Also, in increasing the bottom line in terms of what are the areas in which you might need to make some changes, and so that you are increasing that bottom line. Okay. How is an award calculated? So an award, here's what SSS is doing. SSS, when that's again the company that you're going to be filling out your application with, you are going to be creating an account with SSS and you're filling out the application. Basically, you're putting all this information in about your finances. It's going to ask you a ton of information about everything. It's going to ask you about health insurance. It's going to ask you about cars. It's going to ask you about mortgage or rent. It's going to ask you about obviously your income. It's going to ask you about assets, debts, all of those things. So basically, if you're looking at, we've got your income minus your expenses, you've got your assets minus your liabilities. They are going to be looking at family members, like how many people live in the family that are living on the income that you have and the total income that you have. So they're going to be looking at all of this information. So they're taking all this information in, and basically what's happening is that SSS is looking at what does this family have left once, and they're looking annually, okay? What does this family have left after money has come in and money has gone out, okay? And that's determining what your discretionary income is, right? So then SSS is saying, okay, we're gonna say that this family can take XYZ percentage of that discretionary income and put it towards education, okay? That percentage is anywhere between 20 and 40%. And obviously that percentage is higher the more discretionary income that you have, okay? Now, each school may look at the information that you're putting in a little bit differently, okay? But essentially what's gonna happen is that the school is gonna look at, this is the percentage, this is what SSS is saying, and then I'm gonna go look through, just like other, you know, my colleagues at other schools are gonna be looking at, okay, were there any errors? Do I need to make any mistakes? What are the kind of professional judgments pieces that we have to put in order to come up with what is the actual amount that a family is going to need, okay? And this is where we're looking at what is the total cost of attendance and what is that family contribution. So again, that family contribution is calculated by SSS, is that percentage of discretionary income, whatever that number is, that the family can pay. So the total cost of attendance minus whatever the family's, whatever SSS has determined, and then there's your financial need. Okay, now a couple things I want to say looking at this slide. So first is the total cost of attendance. Tuition is usually not the total cost of tuition or total cost of attendance, okay? So no matter what school you're looking at, you want to make sure you can kind of calculate what the total cost of attendance is as well. And so tuition Other things that will probably be part of that total cost are, let's look at transportation. Maybe you have a young child and you're looking at maybe after school care, extended daycare, books. So textbooks, for example, at Breck, students purchase their textbooks. So that's part of the total cost. So if you want to make sure that you're kind of knowing what that total cost is too when you're looking at your own budget. And then the next thing I want to talk about is this total financial need, okay? And so financial aid, the financial aid offer from the schools, what you kind of want to be looking at here. So Breck, all right, we meet 100% of the financial need of the family. So if SSS says that this family needs $15,000, and I've actually gone through everything, and I'm also saying, yes, this family needs $15,000, and we want this, we're going to accept this student, that means that we are going to give a grant in the amount of $15,000. We're not going to give $7,000 and expect the family to come up with the rest, okay? But not all schools can meet 100% of need of the family. And so it's important as you're going through this that when you are talking to other schools, applying to other schools, learning about their financial aid program, find out what percentage of need that school can cover, because that's going to play into how much you might end up paying. Okay. I also say that because many times, well, yes, I'd say that's true. Many times schools that cost a little more have a little bit more money to work with. And so they can typically offer more percentage of need than maybe a school that doesn't cost as much. They might not have as big a financial aid budget. And so even though the school might cost less, they might not actually be able to cover your total need. So just another piece to kind of keep in mind. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of our financial aid program. This, again, I just took this straight from our website. This is information that you can read as well. If you haven't gone to our website, we do have a lot of information there. It'd be good to look at. This just gives you a little bit of information kind of here. We've got, this year we have 351 students. That's 28% of our student body that were given financial aid grants. We have $8 million, roughly around $8 million. And our grants, again, we're giving 100% needs. So our grants are going to vary depending on what a family needs. Some families don't need that much, and some families need help with the full tuition, which we are able to help with. In some situations, we're also able to help with tuition, books, not only tuition, but books, transportation, sometimes extended day as well. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit of information. This also gives you a little bit of information, just gives you kind of an overview of the number of students. This is our, our full number of students and kind of where it falls within each grade. You'll see the numbers are a little bit higher in upper school. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that the grade gets bigger. The grade gets bigger, and so we are accepting more students in upper school than we are in the other grades, and so we're also giving out more money to more students in those grades. Let's see, I'm just going to check a question here, which I think I might need to answer a little bit later, but I'm just going to look at it quickly here. Okay, I think that's one that I might have to answer a little bit later. It's also, I think, kind of specific. And so I think I will get to that though. Okay, so I'm gonna move on here. This is just giving income bands. This is not I show it because we have it on our website, but it's not, this doesn't necessarily mean that, if you make, $500,000 that you're going to get financial aid. There's other things that are coming into play here. So it just kind of gives you an idea that we have a wide range of incomes that are receiving financial aid. It means we don't necessarily have one specific income cap for financial aid. But what this does mean is that there are other things at play here. So the family that's making $400,000 or $500,000 might have a very large family. They might have a lot of kids. They might have multiple kids that are going into tuition-bearing schools. They might have some kids in college. So there's a variety of things that might be at play there. Okay, this is also taken right from our website. It's nice, we've got some hyperlinks in here that are super helpful. So kind of on our main affordability page, when you kind of scroll down to the middle of it, it's going to give you some very specific information for prospective families. So if you are here with me tonight, you're a prospective family, and so you would be on this tab, this prospective family tab. And it just kind of gives you kind of your steps. You indicate your interest, you submit your financial aid forms by February 15th, as we talked about. Financial aid awards will be sent out March 31st this year, that's the date. And then we are asking families to accept by the April 14th. But here's kind of the piece where, and this is written multiple times, and I am going to talk about this multiple times in this webinar as well. So you are going to be filling out what's called the Parents Financial Statement, or PFS. Nowhere really in the SSS application or SSS website does it say, click here to fill out your application. The application is the PFS. Okay, so when you see, click here to fill out your PFS, that is the actual application. Okay, and so here we have, a link to it. You will need Breck's code. It's right here on the website, but if you don't have the code, you can also just type in the name of our school and the code will populate for you. You do have some tax documents to upload. We are requesting, at the time of your submitting your PFS, you're going to be filling out or submitting your 2021 taxes, 2021 W-2s, things like that. Again, I'm going to get into that more as we go through, but this kind of tells you where you can also find this information on our website. Okay. There is a nice little PDF that you can download if you're someone who likes kind of hard copies of things. This is everything that I'm kind of talking about, that I will be talking about today in terms of requirements, due dates, some of our policy things that I'm going to go over is all on our website as well. And there's a PDF that you can download. And that's just what this is. This is a copy of that. Okay, so I've been talking about these required documents. I'm going to get into that now. So we kind of have a part 1 and a part 2 to required documents, okay? Part 1, required documents due February 15th, okay? This is all of your 2021 taxes, okay? So things that hopefully already are done that you did last year. So we need, your completed full 1040. All right. So it doesn't just mean the first 2 pages. We need the whole entire thing. So we need all your schedules, all your statements. We need all of it. Okay. This is true if you have personal taxes and business taxes. We need the business taxes too. You cannot just send us your personal taxes. We need all of it. Some people have W-2s, some people have 1099s, some people don't have either. That is fine. You're giving us what you have. Okay. We also have some cases where the child that is applying, it's not for any of your other children, but your child who is applying, if they, for whatever reason, have federal taxes, then we need those as well. If you have a student that is, or a child that is in college, we need to see their college tuition statement. That tells us what you are paying for your child's college education for tuition. Okay, so that's something that we need as well. That is something that some schools you have to request, and it is called a 1098 tax form. So sometimes you have to request it, sometimes colleges send it right to you. It just kind of depends on the school. Okay, so that's part 1, things that are due. Everybody that's applying, those are things that are due on February 15th. It's at the same time that your PFS is due. Okay, let's get to part 2. Oh, actually, this is more. I said this already, but excuse me, got a little ahead of myself. So this is just your completed 2021 taxes. Make sure you're including all the files all of the schedules and all the statements. Again, if you have any type of business, if you've got an S Corp or you've got a partnership, you need to make sure that you're giving us those tax documents as well, and not just your personal tax documents. Okay, here is part 2. So part 2 is 2022 taxes, okay? So if your child is accepted to Breck, and if your child receives financial aid from the school, we will then require your 2022 taxes so that we can verify your current financial situation. Okay, if you were not accepted, then you would not be, submitting those documents. So everybody's turning in 2021 and 2022 documents, and notice they're not due until May 1st. Okay. There was a time when we requested the current year's taxes in February, and that really was stressful, not only for me, certainly for families. And we don't want to cause families any more due stress than they already are under, just going through this process, which is probably new for people. And so we just changed it to that. We want to look at your 2022 taxes if you're accepted, and we need them by May 1st. And what that means also for the grant is that the grant is contingent upon us reviewing your 2022 documents. So all contract information that we give you will also have all that wording in there, that we are going to make a preliminary offer of a grant, and it's contingent upon seeing your 2022 tax materials. Most people's have given us estimates that are very close, that I haven't had a time where we had to change anybody's grant. Most people are giving good estimates, and there isn't usually any real surprises when we see 2022 documents. Okay, so excuse me, we are at frequently asked questions. This too might bounce around a little bit, but these are things that are specific to Breck, okay? And most likely other schools do this differently. So again, important to make sure you know what are all of the pieces that each school that your child is applying to, what are all of the requirements for that school. So for example, the reason I want to see, let's see, sorry, let me back up. So Blake, SPA, and Breck, we all use SSS. So when you fill out your SSS application, when you fill out your PFS, all three of the schools are going to have access to it. Sometimes people will say, I've had people say in past years, well, how come if they're offered a grant, how come it wasn't the same at all schools? Well, it's because we don't all look at the information the same. Okay, we all have different policies and different things that we do, which is going to be a reason why you might not be getting the same exact type of grant offer. And also because not all schools, like I said before, not all schools meet 100% need. Okay, so you're not going to get the same exact grant offer from schools. Here's an example, retirement accounts. Okay, so here is how SSS handles retirement. Okay, so when you are filling in your PFS, there's going to be questions in there that ask, like, what is the value? What is the amount? What do you have currently in your retirement account? Okay, that information, that retirement money, is not actually part of the full calculation of your net worth. Okay, so retirement, even though we want to see it, I want to know, it's important for me to see, because we are trying to be good stewards of the money. And we have some families who have not been able to save a penny for retirement, right? So those are things that are important for us to see. But SSS does not include it in the calculation of your total net worth, okay? However, there's one area of retirement that is going to be calculated in. That's going to be, there's a section on the application that will ask you, how much did you put into retirement this year? Okay, so it'll actually ask, the question is going to be related to 2022. So you're still going to have to know some things about, your finances, even if you don't have your taxes all done. So what did you currently put in for 2022? What did you put in for that year? SSS is going to, their algorithm is going to take that amount, whatever amount that is, and it's going to put it right back into income. Because what SSS is saying was, that's very nice that you are saving retirement and you're able to put money into retirement, but that is also a choice. And you are choosing to put that money into retirement, and that money could also be used for your child's education. Okay, so that's an automatic thing that happens. What we do as a school, and this is where one of our, kind of professional judgment pieces comes in, is that we don't want to be penalizing families for saving for retirement. However, we also know that there's a piece of truth in that, right? That it is a choice. So what we do is we allow up to a certain amount. So we allow families to put up to $15,000 a year into retirement, and we protect that. Anything above that, we are putting into income. So if I have a family that was, put $30,000 into retirement, I'm going to keep, protect 15 of it, and I'm going to put 15,000 of it back into their income. Okay. Not all schools do that, but that is something that we do. Home equity. So SSS keeps your home equity, like includes home equity in your net worth. We do not. We zero it out. We know that you're not going to go to the bank and take out a home equity loan to pay for kindergarten or any of the grades. Okay, so we zero that out. Now, the one piece of that is that if you have multiple homes, if you have a cabin or something like that, we cannot zero out the second home, the equity of the other house. So we can zero out one of them, but we can't zero out the second one. So that's something to just keep in mind. Another thing I want to say that has to do with home equity, and I'm sorry, my cat just woke up. My apologies. Not home equity, but mortgage. So in the algorithm, SSS protects, has this income protection amount, okay, an income protection allowance. And they are saying that this family, they're going to look at the size of the family. This size family should be able to use X amount of money for housing, clothing, food, and utilities. Okay, and they protect that and they put that aside and saying this is what this family should be able to live on this amount, and it is. And those numbers are generated by federal guidelines. Now, when we look at that, we know that the number is a little bit low. What they allow for like a mortgage or renting is very low. And so what we do instead is we go into that section and we will actually put in the amount that the family is paying for rent or paying for a mortgage up to $40,000 for the year. Okay, so again, it's not a judgment, but we have to be good stewards of the money. So I will put in, if a family is paying more than $40,000 annually for their mortgage, I'm only going to put in $40,000. Okay, if a family's paying less than that, of course, I'm putting in whatever the actual mortgage amount is. Okay, so that's another piece that goes with mortgage. So SSS actually is saying, SSS doesn't really care what you're actually paying for mortgage. They're saying you should be able to live on this amount, okay? And we're putting in what you're actually paying for your mortgage. Okay, how do I know if I'm even going to qualify? The best way to know is to fill out your application. However, it does take a little bit of time to fill out. It takes several hours to fill out. If you're going to do it in one sitting, I would say it probably takes like 2 to 3 hours, maybe more like 2. So really, if you've got real questions about that, like if you're kind of like, I don't think we're going to qualify, and so you really want to know whether you should fill out the application, you should call me or shoot me an email and we can talk a little bit further about that. Okay. I see a question here that I want to see. Okay, in the PFS. Okay, so the question is asking if this is going back to taxes, and I'm sorry I didn't see this right away. So the question is, in the PFS, it only asks for 2022 tax info and 2023 estimates to be filled in the online form. Yes, that is correct. But we want 2 years worth of taxes. We use taxes to verify information, okay, to verify what you're telling us about your finances. So we want 2 years to verify. So that's why we need actual taxes. Otherwise, if we're not asking for any type of verification, we just have to go with whatever people are putting down. And while I do believe that most people are honest, we need to verify the information. They are not hard copies, though. You are going to upload electronic copies to your SSS account. Okay, so in the PFS, it's going to ask you only about tax information. It's going to ask you, what are your actual 2022? You don't know your actual because you haven't done them yet. So you're going to be giving an estimate, but most people should have a good idea of kind of where they are by this time in year 2022. You should have a good idea of what your estimates are. And then you're going to give an estimate for 2023. We want to see kind of what are you projecting? What are you thinking this is going to be like? Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers the question. If it doesn't, go ahead and throw in a follow-up question. Okay. So I think I answered the what if I don't have my taxes done in time to submit to submit them by the deadline. Well, you should have your 2021 taxes. If you don't have your 2021 taxes, you need to contact me so we can chit chat a little bit. And again, your 2022 taxes will only be due if your child is accepted, receives financial aid, and then they're not due until May 1st. So we would hope that that is enough time to do that. I'm going to come back to the divorced one because I have actually a slide for that, but I'm going to go to how do college savings plans, college saving plans like 529s work. Well, you know, recently laws changed so that 529 money can actually be used for independent schools, for, you know, grade school, middle school, and high school. However, in SSS has not made any changes in its algorithm to pull that money. So you know how I explained how it will automatically put current retirement money back into income. College saving, they have not done that with college savings plans, so we aren't doing anything with it. And I think that's how most schools are pretty much handling, you know, 529 information. But here's what I will say. So basically, we are not expecting you to take money out of 529s and pay for school. Again, it's kind of looked at a little bit like retirement. It is something that we look at. It is still an asset. Now, there is a section that will ask about investments, and it will ask you to itemize. And I really need you to itemize investments. So to tell me, like, we've got money here and this is the value, or this is how much is there. Because some people don't have specific 529s, but they are still having investments that they're using, you know, for their kids, or you're including or you do have a 529, and that's another reason why it needs to be itemized, so I know. Because what I can do with that information is I can zero out that amount of money. So let's say you're saying, okay, this is the value of the various investments that we have. Here's what they are. I see 529 or college saving plan, and I see an amount, then I'm going to subtract that amount from that full. So that's something else that I can do. Again, that's not something that all schools do. I do think probably with 529 plans, I think they probably are, you know, not expecting families to do that, but I can only speak for specifically what we do. So again, it's important to be very clear and really follow the instructions that are written in the PFS, okay? Another piece that goes with that, with investments and retirement, because some people don't have maybe a traditional retirement fund, but they have other investments that are earmarked for retirement. That's another reason why when it says to itemize, please itemize, because if you've got money in investments that is earmarked for retirement, I need to know so I can zero that out, okay? investment money that is not for, and this is, again, I'm assuming everyone is being honest with me. Investment money that is not earmarked for retirement and is not earmarked for college savings is part of your net worth. And it does put a family in a better financial situation than others. Okay. But I don't want to penalize people. So it's important for me to know, if you've got money earmarked, I want to be able to zero that out. So I need to know that that's what that money is for and how much it is. Okay. What if only one parent or caregiver in the household is employed? Okay, it is expected if a family is applying for financial aid, it is the family's responsibility to pay for their child's education, not the school. And so if a family is coming to us and, requesting financial aid, it is our expectation that both parents are working. Now, there are exceptions, of course. And one of those exceptions is that you've got kids at home. You've got little kids at home, right? So our expectation is that once all children are in school full time, so that's starting first grade. So first grade and higher, our expectation is that both parents or both caregivers are working. If that is not the case, we actually will apply an income to the non-employed parent. And that is typically $30,000. We're looking at what could that person make part-time. And so that is another place where that the school has a judgment professional judgment that they change in the PFS. Again, I do think most schools do that, but I can only speak specifically for my school that's what we do. Okay. Of course, there are other reasons why a parent or caregiver might not work. And if it's, something that we need to talk about. So just give me a call, send me an email, we can do a Zoom, whatever. So we know that there are exceptions to some policies. Okay. Oh my gosh, I've missed a couple. Let me look here. So I have one about mortgage, okay? Mortgage and that you'll be moving. What we want you to do is give an estimate. Give us an estimate of what you think that you would be expecting to pay. If you think it's gonna be more, give me an estimate of what you think it's gonna be more, okay? Can we reevaluate financial aid packages? Yes, we can always have a conversation. It doesn't mean that the grant is going to change, but we always are more than happy to have conversations with families. And certainly if there's a major change in a family's financial situation, which does happen. Okay. Okay, is home equity distinguished between someone who has we're not necessarily comparing people, if that's kind of what I'm looking at yours as a whole. If someone has is living in $1 million home, that's something that the financial aid committee is going to be looking at, because we are going to be looking a little at we have a family that's got a $1 million home and they're requesting financial aid. And that is something that we need to talk about. Again, I only allow up to $40,000 for that mortgage though. So they're not getting, they're not able to, that's how we're going to be good stewards of the financial aid funds. Okay. It's not a judgment, right? It's not necessarily a judgment, but it's like where is our need? Okay. But I'm also not, someone who his mortgage is a lot lower isn't necessarily going to get aid over someone who has a higher mortgage. Like that's not something that's going to make a decision, if that makes sense. Again, and if I'm not answering your questions well enough, go ahead and do a follow-up, okay? Or we can talk more later. So here's divorce or remarriage, or maybe maybe the parents were never married. So here is how that works. So Our policy is that both biological parents must fill out a financial aid application, and they are separate. Okay, there are two households that child is going back and forth between, and that means that that child is being supported financially by two different households. And so that means there needs to be two separate financial aid applications. Okay, both parents must complete the process. Now, what happens is you're filling out your own application. You can't see each other's, but I see both of them. Okay, and so I'm looking at the finances of one parent or caregiver and the other parent or caregiver. Okay, now, if one of those biological parents is also either remarried or is living with a significant other, that new significant other, their income must be included in the application, because again, there is a financial piece in that household that is coming in. Even if the two people have their own agreement on, I pay for this and you don't pay for this, and I'm going to pay for the kids for this and you're going to pay for this, we as a school cannot get involved in those specific type things. Okay, we are looking at households. Okay, and so it is required that the significant other is that their income, their taxes, all of that is all in the same application. Now, do we have situations where one biological parent refuses or is not in the child's life? Okay, yes. Again, which is why there are always going to be exceptions. There are always going to be times when we have to make an exception. Okay, we don't want that to be a reason why someone says, oh, I can't apply. Okay, so we have a policy and there's a reason why we have the policy, but there's also going to be times when we need to kind of waive that policy in that situation. So if you have any questions about that, you just give us a call, okay, or email, and we'll just talk about it. Okay. Make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay, I talked about retirement funds. I mean, the one thing I will say is, that I didn't get into a lot is like, retirement funds aren't they're not calculated into the net worth, which means they're not going to become part of this estimated family contribution. The EFC, that's the number that SSS is saying, okay, this family can pay this much. Okay, that's the estimated family contribution. Okay, but again, we have to look at that. All right, we have to be good stewards of the money, and we have to look at what does this family have in retirement. If I've got a family that's got, $1 million and more in retirement, that puts them in a better financial situation than another family. And that might be a situation where that family may need to use a small percentage of their assets to pay for education. Okay. All right. I'm just checking questions again on those things I've talked about. Okay, so here is how financial aid and admissions intersect. Okay, every school has a limited budget for financial aid. Okay, and it's especially limited for new families. We have, as we saw on a slide earlier, we have about $8 million, and the bulk of that money is reserved for our financial aid families that are already here at Breck. Okay, we are committing to making sure that we can support them for their time at Breck. So the bulk of that money is for them. About 800,000 left of that 8 million is for new families. So it is very limited, and we have 14 grades. Okay, so qualifying for financial aid does not mean that you will receive financial aid. Okay, in the admissions process is need blind. So we've got an admissions committee, and then we have a financial aid committee, and they meet at 2 separate times. So students are admitted to school first, and then financial aid discussions happen after that. So in the admissions process, students are ranked. They're ranked looking at all of the pieces of the admissions process, and we go grade by grade, okay? So, depending on the age, I'll just do middle school because it's in my head, but there's school transcripts, there are teacher recommendations, there's admissions testing, there is the student statement, there's the day visit, there's the parent conference, all of those things. We're looking at all of those things and giving students a rank. Okay, it's the, kind of the icky part of being admitted to anything is that there has to be some sort of a ranking process. So students are ranked in the admissions process, and we are then creating the group of new students for that grade. Selecting our students, we have to look at what are the needs of the grade. And by that, I mean, where are we with gender balance? Where are we with diversity? In some of the, middle and upper school, we're also looking at needs of the grade in terms of, well, what are the things that we need to kind of fill out our various programs that we have, whether it's an athletic program or whether it's, something in the performing arts. There's a lot of things that we have to look at to make up what does that grade need, okay? So we've got the rankings, we've got looking at the things that the grade needs, and then we're going to be accepting our students, okay? So again, we go grade by grade. I get the list of all the students who've been accepted in a grade. I then look at that list of students and I'll say, okay, this person and this person, their family applied for financial aid, so I need to look at the financial aid application. So we only look at financial aid applications of students who've been accepted. So students are accepted. I'm going to pull those financial aid applications. I'm going to go through all the pieces. I'm going to make those various professional judgment changes that we talked about. If I have questions, I'll call the family. If I see any errors, I'm going to correct the error. So I'm going to go through, and then looking at, I'll be making a recommendation to the financial aid committee. So then now we go to the financial aid committee and we go again grade by grade. And those rankings that the student received in the admissions decision meetings follow them to the financial aid. So the higher ranked students are more likely, it's more likely that the higher ranked students are going to be receiving financial aid first. And the reality is we never have enough money to fund all students who've been accepted and qualify for financial aid. So it is possible to be admitted to Breck and not receive financial aid. And so I'm trying to think what else. There's another piece I wanted to say that goes with that. The other piece that goes with that is I mentioned that, really it's about, I'd say $800,000, maybe $900,000 that we have, and we've got these 14 grades. That money is not divided equally amongst the grades. Okay, and that is because there are certain years called entry years where we're getting more applicants come in. So the entry years are preschool, kindergarten, 5th grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. Those are the years when parents are typically looking for a new school, looking to make a change at that, pre and K, that middle school, 5, 6, and then that high school. The other years are not typically years when people are making a change or making a move. And that is also, in those particular entry years, we are also increasing the size of the grade. So when we're increasing the size of the grade, that also means that we need to reserve more money in those grades for financial aid. So those are the grades that have the most financial aid of that 800,000. It is possible that some years we don't give financial aid in some of those in a non-entry year. So for example, maybe 2nd grade. Okay, so maybe we don't have any money in 2nd grade to give. So that is possible. So coming in an entry year, it is more likely that we will have money for financial aid. We have more financial aid in those grades than we do in the other grades. Just checking, make sure I don't have any questions about that. How do I start? So now I'm moving into just kind of what the website looks like. The slides that are coming up are actually slides from several years ago from their website, but it really, the pieces that I'm going to show you haven't changed, whereas you know, the look of it might be a little bit different, but it doesn't change that much. So this is, you know, kind of how do I apply? We've really talked about this. You are going to be filling out the parent's financial statement, the PFS. I'm sorry, I think this has changed too this year. I believe it's $60 this year. I missed this. So I apologize for that, but it's $60. It's one application and it's one fee, regardless of if you're applying for one student or 5. Okay, you can put them all on one, and that's also true if you're applying to multiple schools. So if you happen to be applying to SBA and also to Blake, we all use SSS. It's still going to be one application and one fee. It's not 3 fees for the school, and the fee isn't ours. It's the fee for schools and student services. Okay. Some schools have additional forms that they want you to fill out. We do not, but you want to make sure that the other schools that you're applying to do not have those, or if they do, that you have them. Tax-related documents. You know, I have mortgage and bank statements on there just because it's going to help you, you know, fill out your materials or fill out the application. But we are not asking you to submit those. There are some schools that do actually require you to submit some of those. So again, that's something you'd want to make sure that you knew. Okay, one form, one fee, doesn't matter how many siblings, it doesn't matter how many schools, okay? You're going to be able to upload and manage your documents. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's got built-in hints and tips, and question by question instructions. This is what it's going to look like when you go to the link and you're going to go fill out your application. Welcome to the Parents Financial Statement Online. If you've never done this before, this is where you're going to click. You're going to create a new account. Okay. Again, right here, click in the teal box if you're a new user. This part looks exactly the same. If you have applied before, maybe you applied before to a different school, or maybe you applied and you hadn't received your financial aid. If you know all of your you know, credentials from your you know, your username and all of that, just you can, you know, log in, just log in. Okay. This is what your dashboard is going to look like. So again, you're creating an account that you can go in and out of as many times as you want, and this is your dashboard. And it's kind of go through these things as you complete. Okay, there is a PFS workbook, which I do recommend that you download and go through, because it will go through all of your it'll go through all of the actual questions. You're going to be clicking on the PFS, and I'm just realizing I'm probably almost at time. I'm not quite there yet. Okay. This is a tab I want to point out to you, my documents. This is where, after you have submitted your PFS, you're going to click on this, and that is where you're going to upload all of your tax documents. You'll notice that right now it's gray. Like, you will not even have access to upload anything until you have submitted your PFS. So some people have said, I just want to submit my taxes and then I'll work on the rest of it. I don't want to forget. The system won't actually allow you to do that. So you actually have to fill out your PFS first, and then you will be able to click on that link, and then you can upload your tax documents. Okay. This is kind of the beginning. This is one of the first places that you're going to see. This is where you're going to be entering the school names. And so again, you don't have to have the code. Ours is 1804. It's also on our website. But you can also just enter the school name, and it will find it for you. Okay. You have to you have to apply each school that you're applying to for your child. You have to select the school and apply it to the child. And that's down in this section part here. Okay. As it says here, apply the school to the student. SSS does not assume every school you select should be added to each student. You know, not all kids in the same family are applying to the same schools. And so that's why you have to apply to each one. Okay, that isn't actually anything we need. This is going to be one of the first sections. It's going to be parent and guardian information. Okay. This is going to be where you're putting some of your demographic information. One thing, and I don't really know why they have it this way. It's been kind of a pain. But please make sure that when this says, please note that once this page is saved, you will not be able to make adjustments to the several fields. Are you sure you would like to continue? That just means just go back and look at it, make sure you've got everything the way you want it, and then click yes, and you're okay. Okay, this is generally what the whole PFS is going to look like. If you look on the side here, these are all the sections: section household information, school selection, family income, family assets and debts, family expenses, monthly income and expenses, other information. That's the whole actual application. That's the whole PFS. Okay, as you go through it, you will notice that a check mark will come up. Okay, so when you're done with a section, a check mark will come up. If there's no check mark, it's not done. On the other side, you will always see this section. This is a little preview, and it gives you tips. This is important to read. What's in this section? It'll tell you what you're going to need, and it'll tell you what stuff you need too. So if you need documents for it, it's going to tell you what you need so that you can gather the things that you need before you sit down and start it. Anything that's they call it red, I call it pink. Anything that's pink or red here is something that you have to enter or answer. I point this out simply because this part here, read. Many of the questions give you the guidance you need. Ensure to read the do's and don'ts. So many people get this one wrong, and I don't understand. Enter your total outstanding debt right here. This is what you can include in debt. This is what you cannot include in debt. Okay, you cannot include mortgage. You cannot include business, farm, car, or consumer debt. Anything in credit cards. You cannot include debt from routine home repairs. You cannot, these are all the things that you cannot include. These are the things you can include. The reason you can't include these things is that they have their own section. And so you can't say I've got this debt and then put that same debt in another area. Okay. And so really, if you read exactly what it says and just kind of follow those tips. Okay, sorry, I have a question. No, the question is, can you see the outcome of the SSS calculation before you hit submit to Breck? No, you're not, and you're not hitting submit to Breck. You're just hitting submit to SSS. And as soon as you hit submit, the calculation is done and it's right there. I will tell you, I'm not going to even look at these until after February 15th. So if you do yours tomorrow, I'm not going to see anything just because I'm not going to look at it until after everything is due. Okay. But yes, you'll see what SSS is calculated. And that again is going to be before I've done anything with it. If I've, changing anything in retirement or mortgage, things like that. Another little tip, read what is there. SSS will provide what you need. A lot of people just kind of make assumptions and they don't read really carefully. This says, enter the total medical dental expenses you paid that were not reimbursed by insurance. Notice that these little information icons, if you hover over them, information is going to pop up for you to give you a little more information. Here it says you only need to enter your medical dental expenses if you spent more than 5% of your total income. Okay, and this one even says, based on your prior responses, we estimate this threshold to be 0 for you. So it gives you a lot of information, okay? You don't need to complete this in one sitting. You can save and exit. You can come back at another time. This is that last section, other considerations. Please do not leave this blank, okay? Everybody has a story. Everybody has something to add. And you want to add something for me because you want to flesh out what your situation is. Otherwise, I'm just looking at a bunch of numbers, okay? Tell me what the situation is. Maybe I'll give you some examples of, that I've had in the past. So maybe you have, maybe your parents are living with you. That's an expense, right? Maybe you send money to family that lives in another country. There's no question on the application that asks that and says, well, how much do you spend to family? How much do you send to family, every month or annually? That's going to be something that is part of your financial picture, right? But if you don't tell me, I don't know. Okay. Maybe you have a cabin, but it's owned by you and your 3 siblings, and you can't decide just to go sell it because you're not the only owner, right? Again, write that down. Tell us about that. Again, because if you recall, I can't zero out home equity of that. Okay. Maybe you get a bonus, but you don't get it every single year, or it's not reflected, or this is a really good year, or next year's not going to be like, those are the types of things that you can put in there. This is where I'm trying to look back at some of the questions. I think the one about mortgage probably could go here in terms of, well, we're moving. We're going to have a lot of expenses. Okay, so give me a little information on that. Okay, tell me more. That was kind of it. So that was the last thing. That is the last thing of the actual application. And so really, should you have questions about policy, due dates, things like that, I'm the person you'd want to talk to about things specific to Breck. If you're having any trouble with the website, that is not something I can help you, or uploading documents, things like that. That is something that you need to call SSS about. And I will tell you, I have people who wait until the last minute to do things, and then are surprised when SSS can't help them right away. And so I would say that they are able to help, but you might end up in a long queue if you do wait to the last minute to do some of this. And I know sometimes it just cannot be helped. It's just, that's okay. Just be prepared that it might take longer for them to answer your questions. You can always ask me. I will do my best. Most of the time I can field most questions. Every now and then I have to say, that's something you're going to have to ask SSS, but most of the time I can field questions. So with that, that's the end. I'm going to just stop the screen share and then just kind of hold on a little bit and see if anyone has more questions that they want to throw in the Q&A for me. I'll follow up with an email. I'm going to send the PFS workbook to people so you can kind of look through that. The workbook is great because it literally goes through every single question line by line and tells you, this is what you put here. Like it will even say from your 1040. For question number 3, look at your 1040 line 7 and put that answer here. Like that, the workbook is really helpful in that way. What else I was going to send you? Oh, I'll also send you I'll send you the PDF of kind of our policies and due dates and things like that. I'll send that too. So I'll do a follow-up email for people. Any questions? Let's see. Is it likely that financial aid received in the first year will continue at the same level? Oh, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I should have said that. So yes, we, once you receive financial aid, as long as you continue to qualify. So you have to apply for financial aid every single year. So you have to go to your you write a brand new PFS every year, you turn in your taxes every year, all of that. We review everything every year because a family's financial situation could change. Generally speaking, the amount that you pay will stay relatively the same. And I say relatively because tuition goes up too. And so when tuition goes up, that means that there's going to be probably a little increase in what you might pay as well. But generally speaking, families, as long as your income is staying roughly the same, then the amount that you're paying will stay roughly the same. Some, families that maybe have businesses, that maybe fluctuate a little bit, that's where you might see some change in what type of grant, a grant that a family might receive. So hopefully that answered that question. Other questions? And again, I am available, to, speak about anything specific to your situation. Scott Wade can also do that. Um, or, send us an email, whatever you need. We'd like to be helpful. So I went over, um, it's not what I've done in past years. So thank you for hanging in there with me and spending time learning about financial aid. I'm going to end this so you guys can get on to whatever else you need to do, and just know that I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a great night.